2.8 notes, we're going to talk about inverses of functions. So inverses are kind of like opposites. Like addition is the inverse of subtraction, and division is the inverse of multiplication. They're inverses of each other, so they're like opposites. Our goal is kind of like undoing the question. I'll show you what the steps we're going to take to find the inverse. But before we do that, this symbol, this f to the power of -1, this is the inverse symbol. So when we find the inverse, we always want to name it with the inverse symbol. So either this, or we can name it as y to the power of -1. We just have to put that little -1 as the inverse symbol. Example 4, I don't think that you have any questions on the web assign about this, but here it says f of 1 equals 5. The number in the parentheses is our x. What it equals is our y. So if it asks me for the inverse of 5, that would equal 1. So the x and the y just switch for the inverse. Again, I don't think that there's any questions like this, so I'm not going to spend time doing the rest of them, but in the inverse, the x's and the y's just switch. Here it gives us steps on how to find the inverse. In kind of better words, to find the inverse, the first thing we want to do is switch the x and y. So we're going to make the x a y, and the y is going to turn into x. Second thing we're going to do is solve for y. So our goal is to make it y equals. So these are going to be the two steps to find the inverse. So in example 7, to find the inverse, we're going to switch the x and y and then solve for y. Now f of x is just a fancy way of saying y. So this is actually our y. But when we switch the x and y, the y is going to become x and the x is going to become y. So we have x equals 3y minus 2. Now we want to solve for y. We need to get y all by itself. So what would I need to do to get y all by itself? Add 2. We're just going to rearrange our equation. We're going to move everything to the left side. So we have x plus 2 equals 3y. What would we do next? Divide by 3. So we have x plus 2 over 3 equals y. Last thing we have to do is just name it as the inverse. So this is our inverse function. We got to put the little -1 on the y. On WebAssign, it'll already be there. It'll give you it writes it as f -1 of x equals, and then it gives you the box. So you don't have to put the y. It'll mark it wrong if you put the y. So don't put the y. It's just, it wants the rest of it. But on the test or quiz, you can either write it this way as y to the power of -1 or change it back to f of x. Either way works. So we're going to find the inverse algebraically. So step 1 is we want to switch the x's and y's. So f of x is just a fancy way of saying y. So that's going to become our x, and then x is going to become y. So I have x equals 2 times y plus 7 squared minus 3. Now since we're solving for y, we're undoing everything. We want to do PEMDAS but backwards. So what do you think I should do first here? We can't distribute because our parentheses are squared, but we just want to move everything to the left side. So what should I move first? The 3. So I'm going to add 3 to move it to the other side. So x plus 3 equals 2 times y plus 7 squared. What should I move next? Let's divide by 2. Since 2 is being multiplied to the parentheses, we're going to divide to move it to the other side. So we have x plus 3 over 2 equals y plus 7 squared. Now, how would I get rid of the squared? What's the opposite of squaring something? Square root. Perfect. We're going to square root both sides. So it'll cancel out with the squared. So I have the square root of x plus 3 over 2 equals y plus 7. And then what's our last step? To get y by itself, what would I need to do next? Subtract 7. Now that 7's not going to be under the square root, so it's just going to stay next to it. So I have the square root of x plus 3 over 2 minus 7, so that minus 7's just on the outside, equals the inverse of y. So don't forget to name the y as the inverse. No, you can just leave it as a fraction. So like technically we don't like it when fractions are under our square root, but we're just going to leave it like that. Let's look at number 2. What should we do first? Switch the x and y. So f of x is going to become x. X is going to become y. So we have x equals y squared plus 4. Now we want to solve for y. What should we do first to solve for y? Minus 4. We're going to subtract 4 on both sides. So x minus 4 equals y squared. What should we do next? How do we get rid of the squared? Square root both sides. So we have the square root of x minus 4 equals y. Now that our y is all by itself, we just need to name it as the inverse. So we're going to put the little -1 on it. So this is our answer. Let's do number 3. So I'm going to switch the x and y. So f of x is going to turn into x, and x is going to become y. So we have x equals -5 times y squared plus 3. Now how would I get y all by itself? Subtract 3 first. Perfect. So x minus 3 equals -5 times y squared. What should we do next? Awesome. -5 is being multiplied to the y squared, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by -5. So we have x minus 3 over -5 equals y squared. What should we do next? Square root both sides. Perfect. So we get the square root of x minus 3 over -5 equals y. Last thing we want to do is name the inverse, so just put the little -1 symbol on it. Last one, let's do number 4. So I'm going to switch the x and y. So f of x is going to become x. X is going to become y. So we have x equals 5 minus 3y over 2. What would we need to do to solve for y? Awesome. We're going to multiply both sides by 2. Since it's being divided on the right, we got to do the opposite. So we're going to multiply. So 2x is equal to 5 minus 3y. What should we do next? Subtract 5. So 2x minus 5 equals -3y. What's next? Divide by -3. So we have 2x minus 5 over -3 equals y. And we can't forget to name the inverse. So that would be our answer. Any questions here? All right, a couple things that came up in the last class on the homework. I'll call it number 5. Let's say we had f of x equals 2 over x plus 3. We want to find the inverse. What should we do first to find the inverse? We want to switch the x and y. So f of x is going to become x, and x is going to become y. So we have x equals 2 over y plus 3. Now we need to get y all by itself. What would we need to do here? How would we get y from out of the denominator? No. Multiply. So since y plus 3 is being divided here, I'm going to multiply both sides by y plus 3. So it'll cancel out on the right side. So we have y plus 3 times x equals 2. Now I'm not going to distribute here, because remember my goal is to get the y all by itself. What would I need to do next? Divide by x. So since x is being multiplied to the y, we got to divide it to move it to the other side. So y plus 3 is equal to 2 over x. And then what would we need to do next? Subtract 3. So y is equal to 2 over x minus 3. And then we can't forget to name the inverse. So this would be our answer. So there's one like this in the homework. It's a little bit different. Whenever y is in your denominator, you want to multiply it to get it out of the denominator. One other question would be, let's say we had f of x equals x to the 6th power. What should we do first? We want to switch the x and y, so f of x is going to become x is going to become y, so we have x equals y to the 6th power. Now how would we get y all by itself? If it was y squared, we'd take the square root. But how do we get rid of the 6th power? We're going to take the 6th root. Perfect. So we're going to take the 6th root of both sides. So the 6th root and the 6th power will cancel. So we have the 6th root of x equals y. That would be our answer. So whatever your exponent is, that's going to be your index of the radical. Yeah, I think there's one on the homework where it's like x to the 10th power or something like that. So it'd be just the 10th root of x. So whatever the exponent is, that's your index. All right, last page. When we're graphing inverse functions, there's no graphing on the homework. I don't think that there's any on the test either, but just for you guys, for SAT purposes, I guess. When you're graphing inverse functions, if I were to start with the blue graph, this is my original function. Let's say this point here was 0, negative 5. On the inverse graph, so on the red one here, it would have the same point, but the x's and y's switch. So this point would be negative 5, 0. So when you are graphing an inverse function, it's going to have the same points, but the x's and y's just flip. So 0 was our x, and negative 5 is the y. Now 0 is going to be the y, and negative 5 is going to be our x. So the x's and y's just flip for an inverse.